Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. From time to time this year, in between regular shows, I'll do a short Michigan Man commentary like this. It's really just my thoughts on what's happening on the Michigan athletic scene, or maybe even college sports in general. We're already 2 months into this new year, and it is a very busy time on the athletic scene. If you have any thoughts or opinions you would like to share with me, I invite you to email the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. I always enjoy hearing from you on any Maize and Blue topic, so please, if you have a spare minute, drop me a line. Positive or negative, I do read them all. Right now, Juwan Howard and basketball are red hot. Well, until last night against Wisconsin they were. Kim Barnes-Arico and women's hoops are playing well. Hockey has turned things around in the second half of the season, while softball and baseball are just getting their seasons underway. That said, the majority of my emails are still about football. So let's talk about that today. Since the season ended, there has been much written, both locally and nationally, about the fact we are not recruiting at the same level as the top 5 in college football, in particular Ohio State. So let's start with the way I see that. When Jim Harbaugh was hired, fans hoped it would be to restore the program to elite status. Some argue that we haven't been elite for a long time though. Win Big Ten championships, make the playoffs, and in short order. The question I get most often is, why hasn't it happened yet? And I think it's a very complicated question, and how you answer it might depend on what age group you fall in. Those of us who have been watching Michigan football for decades know this. College football, in particular Big Ten football, is not the same as it was in our youth, or even when Jim Harbaugh played here. For most of our life, it was the Big Two and the Little Eight. And for the most part, who won the Big Ten championship always came down to the game, Michigan versus Ohio State. For my generation, that started to change in the new century when the Big Ten expanded and the competition increased. It wasn't our daddy's Big Ten anymore. You had to bring your A game most Saturdays, or you got beat. For younger fans, that's not been their experience. In the last decade, they have witnessed turmoil on and off the field, in administration and with coaching hires. We haven't won a Big Ten championship in, well, let's say a long time. And many of you have had a hard time believing our rivalry with Ohio State was ever as competitive as your dads and uncles and grandfathers told you it was. At home games, I cringe when great moments in Michigan football are highlighted on the video screens. And don't get me wrong, it's important that we remember those great moments, but that history has less impact with your generation because they have never experienced that level of excellence in their lifetime. They have never known Michigan to be an elite program, and I fear we are to some degree losing many of our young fans. They still love the university, our football team, the athletic programs. They just no longer believe we are or will ever be elite. For me, that's kind of frustrating and heartbreaking. So circling back to the question I get most often from you, why hasn't this happened yet under Jim Harbaugh? There are many reasons, I think. When Jim got back here, we had talent, but we needed to upgrade. He's been doing that, no question, with great recruiting classes. But at certain position groups, we just need to get better. When you look at Ohio State over the last 5 years, really the last 15, the big difference is the skill position gap. They have had elite receivers, running backs, and dynamic quarterbacks. They have had game changers. We, on the other hand, have had very good players in those position groups, but very few game changers, guys we'd expect to see playing on Sundays. So many of you might say, okay, we already know that, so just go out and get those kind of players. And I wish it was that simple. We are in a catch-22 or field of dreams-like scenario. Build it, and they will come, which means win marquee games, beat Ohio State, win a Big Ten championship. I know that's easier said than done, but if we can do that, it would impact our ability to bring game-changer type talent to the skill positions in Ann Arbor. We need to get over that hump. It can be done. It's just taking longer than many of us thought it ever would. But I do believe we are getting closer. We are a top 10, 15 program.
a very good football team. Our young men are achieving academically in degree programs that require them to work other than reporting to the football building and logging into your online class. We should be proud of what Jim Harbaugh and his staff have accomplished. But I know we all want more. Jim knows it. His staff knows it. And so do the student athletes that will soon be reporting for spring practice. Like them, we just have to put our head down and keep moving forward. Don't give up, because they won't. Until Thursday night, basketball was red hot, as I mentioned at the top of this. They ran into a hotter Wisconsin team that rained threes on us. It happened, so we just have to move forward. We have 3 left. 2 of those are on the road. Ohio State on Sunday, back home for Nebraska Thursday, and then Maryland next weekend. So let's see what happens. Hopefully Eli Brooks will get his mask fitted, and we will have him back. We do need him. On next week's show, we're going to have radio play-by-play voice Brian Bush with us, so make sure you join us. So once again, thanks for listening to my somewhat disjointed thoughts on the state of Michigan football. And remember, I would enjoy hearing your thoughts. So take a minute and share them with me at the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. I'd love to share them on an upcoming show. That will do it for now, though. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine weekend, everyone. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue.
Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!